Hi everybody, it's Kathy here and I'm back with another layout from the 100 Patterned Papers Challenge, and I'm using 2 more papers out of my 100 paper stash, and I'm doing it with these photos that I took recently when we went to Sydney Zoo. So I like these papers. They're nice and bold. There's black and white with a tempered black and white one on the back, and then I love that flower. So what I did was I gutted or cut out the middle of the flower one, and I took some black cardstock and I also took out the middle of that one because I'm going to use it on the layout. And then with the diagonal checkerboard one here, I'm using that as my base. Now this is a shiny cardstock. It's not my usual choices, and probably that's why it sat for ages in my stash, but I'm going to use it here and I'm going to pull it down. With the leftover flower one, I've looked at the best part so I can fussy cut some of those flowers to include on the layout. And then the leftovers from when I took out the middle and I've cut out a circle of it, that's where I'm creating this decorative border part. And I'm going to put these top and bottom here, and I'm going to do it on a diagonal, just to add a little point of interest and a little bit of a look that's different. So it's going to guide your eye to the corners of the layout using this border as a directional option for your eye. And I'm putting in the punch just so that it's a little bit more decorative, and also the pattern underneath shows through. So I'm just finishing off that, and I'm going to measure off where I need it to be, and it's going to sit there. And the reason I'm going to do that is I'm also going to tuck a photo in down the bottom here to create this layout. Now I've gone through my stash and I've collected a couple of pieces that are similar in colour to the flower paper, but I've also grabbed this striped one again with the orange in it because that matches the orange in the Tassie's colouring in the photos. So I'm going to mount the photos now, and I'm going to just have them on single black mounting, and that's so that they pop up off that background. Now this Tasmanian devil was quite funny. We were standing there watching him, and he ran around the back of the enclosure, climbed up over the rocks and onto the top of the branches, and then he stood there for like 5 minutes, swaying his head backwards and forwards, putting his foot down, putting his foot up, putting his foot down, putting his foot up, looking at the people, and then deciding that no, it was okay, he was safe, he could jump, and then he'd jump down, and then he'd repeat the process, and it was like he was putting on a show. It was very funny. It was like he knew he had people watching him, and so therefore he was putting on this show. And we were sitting there for ages watching him because he was actually very entertaining. So what I've done here, you'll see I've made a mistake here because I then realised that the photo is not going to go there, and off screen in a moment I fix that up. But for the time being, I'm just putting this in for my markings to see where it sits, and it's not until I actually put down the rest that I realise that my photo won't cover that gap, and I have to actually fix that because I moved it up closer to the corner than when I originally first cut the papers and thought where I was going to put it. Now this is the branding strip of that flower paper that I'm using, and I'm now using it as a border strip in here, and that's all the best part about all of our layouts. We can utilise all pieces of our papers. Now this border strip goes here, and then I'm going to add in the stripe part here. Cut the angles like a beveled edge so that it fits in nicely, and that's how this all comes together. So as you can see off screen, I fixed that dotted stripe because when I put the photo down there was the gap. So that's where that photo of the full-on Tasmanian devil will sit. And now I'm just getting ready my circle, which I'm going to put up here to the top as a feature, and I'm going to pop it there. And then I've got these two, which I'm also going to match with the black cardstock that I cut from the centre of my frame. And this is how I can utilise all of my cardstock to extend it and fulfil a layout with the minimal amount of papers required. I'm just going to trim it down. Now my photos are 3.5 by 5. They've become my favourite size photo. I can fit lots on a page and manipulate it and still have the full photo without having to trim any pieces off. Alright, now I want this circle to show out a bit more, so what I'm doing is I'm cutting it in half and I'm going to extend it beyond the photo. So it won't actually be a circle shape, it'll be more of an oval type shape, but it actually looks effective when the photos go down. So I can fix this piece here now into the corner because I know where it's going to go, and then I will lay up the photos and that circle so I can continue working on developing the rest of the layout. Now, as you can see, by adding in all the colours, I've toned down the black and white harshness of that check, but it still looks dramatic and draws the eye to the photo because it's the colours of the Tasmanian Devil. The greens and the oranges from the stripes are picked up by the Tassie and the wood in the photo. So you can see how that's complementary to those photos. And then the flowers just soften it up just a little. And so I like using my photos to guide my papers, and when you are working with papers that you wouldn't normally choose, it's great. It pulls it together, and now these papers have finally been used out of my layout. Now I cut this Tassie on my Cricut a long time ago, and so he's been sitting in my scrap box for ages. So finally found a place for him, and he's going to sit there. With the leftover of that paper that had the flowers on it, I fussy cut out all the flowers that were left, and I'm using those to build up clusters, as you can see here, and tie them in and extend that circle. Now I have a cluster over here for the Tassie to sit against, and that way it's not sitting there doing nothing. And then I'm going to pop up a couple of the flowers like they're coming out of the circle. So you can see this one here, and then you can see the one at the top, and that's going to go over the top of the photos as well, and that's going to tie it all in together. And I like how the colours just are magnified because of the photos. And there you go. And so Tassie's going to sit on top of that flower down in that bottom cluster there, and here's a feature. And as I said, I made him a long time ago when I did another layout, and I had him left over, and I finally found a place for him to live instead of my scrap box. So now he'll sit here on the corner of this layout, and as he should, with the Tasmanian Devil. And there we have my clusters picked up, and the photos are in place, and now I need to work a title. Now in our How to Kill or Keep This Style, we're focusing on alphas. And I'm just showing you where the colours are being picked up and reflected from the photos into the papers. And I'm still contemplating at this stage what my title is going to be. I often do these touch things multiple times before I realise what I want. And that Tasmanian Devil just jumped from that tree to that tree opening and then down to the ground, as I said. So as that case, I've decided that I'm going to call this Showtime. Now with my thickers here, I am going to have to butcher a letter to make an E because I don't have any E's left, but that's okay because I'm going to start with an F and then I'll add a little bit into it, and that will create the E. Just making sure that it sticks down and stays stuck. And so you can see I've put the F there, and as I'm working through my letters I come across a little piece down the bottom that I can actually use to make the E, and that's perfect. Put in the I, and it was like it was Showtime, and like Tassie Devil cartoon, Showtime. And there I found the little piece down the bottom which I can add in to build the E, so now there's an E there. And because it fits perfectly into that space, it looks like it's naturally an E. Thankfully, they have these little accent points on these sticker alphas, and I was able to do that. I'm just going to finish off putting down this title and making sure that it's stuck, because sometimes the alphas don't stick, but these ones are very, very sticky, so I'm pretty lucky in that respect. I don't have to go back with my glue and put it down and make them stick. So there's the word Showtime. That's my title. Very appropriate for that Tassie. So I've got some Nouveaux in the orangey, a light orangey colour, and then I'm going to put those at 3 strategic points, and I'm making them quite large because I want them to stand out and draw your eye around that page. I like how this has come together. It is a little bit different. It's not a normal layout. It's not a pretty layout. You don't have a pretty layout. It's got a Tasmanian Devil on it. They're not pretty. They are endangered and they're not pretty, They are actually quite savage looking to look at, but they still are Australian and important. And so it's why I've done this layout for it. This will go into our zoo trip album, so it will be as one of the animal showcases that we put in there. You can see all the details in there, where I've got the border, where I've got the stripes, how I've used the papers to extend, how I am building up that circle and using the flowers to build the cluster. And that's how this layout has come together, and I'm pretty impressed with it. I like the colour choices. I think they were perfect for these photos. Hopefully I've done something to get you pulling out your papers and looking at them differently, thinking how can I use them today, even though they might be older papers, how will they fit with today's trends, what can I do to make them work, and remember, colours in your photos will help you make them work. Happy scrapping everybody, thanks for watching again. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already gotten, leave me a message, and here's your next video recommendation from me.